This is a body of work, recent body of work, part of which was in an exhibition in Germany. So I'm just trying to evaluate. This is the first opportunity actually to put the work out like this and evaluate it in all this space. The space I had in Germany was much smaller, so I kind of need to feel in like I would like to meet the person who made these paintings. People that I can, say something about them. Partly, or in the main here, are their paintings on panels. I try and kind of layer through mark making and different stages in kind of process. So they can take on stages like initially the source material might be photography or collage. And then I work the collages up to a certain point and then base the paintings on them. Sometimes it's just from a kind of rough drawing, so like this figure here, that represents some kind of archetype as a pictorial idea. And washes or household paint, abstracted, kind of cliche abstraction and figuration, playing about with the material on the edge of that, but also the presence and absence of the artist's hand. I kind of play around with those ideas. And each stage of the painting, in each stage I'm not necessarily faithful to each stage. Each stage allows the work to emerge. A key question, I guess, in the work, maybe you've seen it on the description, is whether a subject is necessary or a structure can bring out a subject. So there's something about painting. You can come to painting each day in a different mood and still work on it and your presence be in the painting. So I've spent a bit of time on that kind of approach. But the second is more characteristic of the work at the back, and I don't as often get an opportunity for the space to kind of explore that. But they're made up of assemblage and found objects, ready-made kind of objects that are enveloped in household paint. So it's not as, these are so enmeshed, it's not as easily apparent. The kind of mainstay of my work, this kind of pouring of household paint across a picture plane, kind of exploring movement and kind of using liquid latex to stop out areas. So liquid latex kind of lends itself to painting onto the canvas as a stop. Liquid latex that you use for moulding and casting and sculpture. So I paint that on and pour the household paint across and take it off. And between household paint and conventional oil paint, which is a kind of counterpoint I explore in my work, this kind of layering kind of builds up in the work. But as it sort of works in found objects, it's usually enveloped in household paint to kind of give it a new meaning or transformation. And then finally, I guess that still relates to the back more. And another approach is in terms of installation environments. Usually I've done it in smaller project spaces where these objects and fragments make paintings seen as objects, but also ways of looking into picture frames. They come together in this kind of staged environment as fragments that amount to something that's more than some of their parts, if you like. So that's kind of, so that these objects are kind of work come together in a contingency of space. So even though only some of this work was in the recent exhibition in Germany, there's a contingency of space where I can put these works together in different kind of configurations. So it's very fortunate to sort of be able to talk about my work and evaluate this new configuration of the body of work. So that's a general introduction, I guess. Some of the ideas for the show, I'm interested in philosophy. I'm not an expert or anything. It just informs my work and motivates my work, particularly in the way I like to read and look at how the mind passes through the world. And I think painting's got an interesting capacity to capture that. So the recent show, I was reading some of Kierkegaard's work, and I can't remember the text exactly, but some of the text talks about, it's very much about, a way of life, and art as a way of life, and talks about this existential thing about treading water and not struggling. Some people struggle in water, some people kind of tread water, and it's quite a profound idea to explore. I'm interested in nocturnal phenomena as well, as something to explore in painting. So I guess this painting kind of resonates with that text a little bit as a kind of response into the work. The show was called Raining Underwater, and I think the title maybe was a bit obvious, but I did propose another title, but it was a bit lame. But I like the idea of raining underwater. I like the kind of incongruence of that idea. And I like the philosophical idea in terms of the way paintings can be propositional, because I think it's Frank Stella who said that painting's got the capacity to offer a fictive and real experience simultaneously, and that's kind of part of what interests me about painting, but also how I can deal with my interest in philosophy in relation to that. So at the back, I kind of had this idea of walking around and everyone kind of so I don't know if you can stand up and sort of, if you like, then stand up and walk around. So another idea, I guess my paintings had something to do with, I used to work quite abstractly with poured paint, so a lot of my paintings were like just colour fields of painting with this household paint poured across. But I got into this idea of breaking down, different ways of breaking down a picture plane, and then this idea of breaking down sort of fragments in space has carried on into that. So this kind of motif of almost like a river-like motif. I put this in the middle. It's the first time I tried it, but when I showed it, there was nothing there. So there was this area in between was more like a void, and this kind of raft-like assemblage kind of represented some sort of passage into this void, if you like. So I think the ideas I was thinking about were quite evocative of a nomadic kind of passing through the world process, I guess. But also, maybe I should talk about colour a little bit as well, because that's quite an obvious thing. And one of the key, in the last 2 or 3 years, one of the key texts that really transformed my work was when I read Matisse, I think it's called Matisse Arch Drawing by Eve Allen Boyce. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but it's in a book called Painting as Model. And he talks about this idea of colour as content, and this idea of arch drawing is a kind of counters the idea of drawing as a design, then to sort of repeat in a painting, if you like, or to execute the painting. Instead of that, arch drawing is a way of painting and distributing colour in paint while painting. So the drawing actually develops in the painting, and the colour as content in the painting kind of comes together. That's kind of a very sort of nutshell kind of description of it was quite a complex essay, but that's kind of one of the things I got from it. So that's one of the things, one of the approaches that I've explored in colour. I'm interested in Matisse's colour. I'm interested in, I guess, the materiality of colour in terms of the materials I use in painting and the mediums I use within arch drawing. There's more motifs and kind of figurative elements that to me are more like signs or pictorial ideas that are quite hermetic, but they're to do with questions that I'm asking in the work, and maybe questions about memory and why I remember certain things. Some of the figures in these images kind of come from when my dad passed away, and some of the questions about where my dad's from. Maybe my dad's from Nigeria. They're kind of like archetypes of figures that I see around that maybe are a reminder of my dad, or that's why it's quite hermetic, because it's a question I'm exploring. So I'm not sure what else. There's lots of strands to my work, so there's lots of different focuses I could get into. This is from a cycle of paintings on paper. I got some Arts Council funding not too long ago, so I got quite a big pack of this paper, and it's quite interesting how these works have developed, because I try and start doing these kind of studies, and I think I can do these studies on paper because I can sort of maybe work under give myself a bit less expectation and pressure to explore different materials, but they just always end up in serious work. So I kind of expanded on some of the materials in this. So I've used I bought a lot of pigment and Demar varnish and acrylics and usual things like household paint and oil paint. But they're somehow informing this, so it's I've got quite a lot of these, but it's been interesting to finally be able to put this in together with the paintings that I've kind of seem a bit more sustained to me, because this is quite a sustained painting as well. So I'm aware that the time is, I don't know.
Well, your time's good. I mean, does anybody have any comments at this stage? I mean, not that that's over, Josh, I don't think, but any questions or?
I'd like to ask you about the household paint. Do you mean just any kind of household paint, or gloss paint, or? I only use gloss household paint. So I like how the picture plane is sort of broken down and not unified, and I like that it reflects. Usually, I usually work with neon. It started when I was doing my BA. I went on exchange to
at a school in New York, and they had a neon workshop. I could sort of work in all the departments and bring it together in my studio, so that was quite a formative experience that kind of still stays with my practice now. So even though, you know, I mainly paint, these kind of things aren't an afterthought to me. They're quite important to how I move the paintings forward, and given the opportunity, I think they'd sort of grow much more, if you like. So yeah, it's gloss household paint. Also, I'm very, I mean, like I said, those abstract paintings I can still do, and they represent a lot of possibility. Possibility is important for me in making work, that there's always possibility. And I'm interested in how things hang together that shouldn't, and sort of somehow some kind of meaning happens, if you like. But I was you know, interested in this text by Deleuze, Perceptions of Movement, and how the poured paint, usually two tones of poured paint, when you pour it, especially in an abstract painting, and leave it to dry, it still looks like it's kind of moving, if you like. It's the perception of movement, so I'm quite interested in that. Yep.
These objects, well, do they relate to these curtain light?
Yeah. So
maybe just some like stage.
Yeah. So there was a small painting, a much more figurative one of a river, and I've kind of abstracted it a bit and kind of emphasised it in this, and then kind of explored it in the space, if you like. So this is the first time I've stuck it in between them. Just, you know, I've had the opportunity to kind of see what it looks like. I did a project a few years ago where I investigated plein air painting as well, and that kind of added a different dimension. There's a different dimension to going out with colour, working with colour in plein air. That it's hard. It takes a lot longer to sort of bring something out that resonates, like in the studio, just working in the studio, because I am mainly a studio artist. So, but yeah, I'm interested in kind of modern colour, and, like, you know, obviously from the household paint, kind of industrial colours against natural colours and ideas of colour that come from at least theory of natural phenomena based on history of painting and how various movements of paint have explored and documented colour. But I guess that comes more from theory and testing those theories. So yeah.
I was interested about your residency in New York. Was that with Triangle?
No, it's an exchange. While I was at university, I went on an exchange programme to a school in upstate New York.
Good experience.
Yeah, it was great.
Good. Well, any more questions?
Can I just say, how do you know when to stop? Is there some sort of sensation you get when you're looking at it?
Yeah.
Sort of gel or something?
There's different ways of describing it. They're like, sometimes it's just like you follow like music, you follow a muse, and something resonates with that. It's not like you have a facsimile in your mind, but something resonates with an idea, or usually it's like a project, which is a number of ideas that. And often, especially with a few of these, there's been a lot of times when it could be, there's been a number of paintings in the painting, and I can either decide to work on another painting or just carry on with this one, and it relates to pushing up against the limits. When interesting things happen when you're pushing up against the limits of what you usually do. So I'm always trying to do that, and I spend a lot of time looking at them as well. I mean, some of them there's a different dynamic, but generally it's a bit like a conversation, that it's telling you more than you can detail of the painting. There's always something you can do differently, but also failure is important. Holding failure close, because as a whole, a painting as a whole will have a number of failures in it, but it somehow works as a whole. And I think there's, you could say something about humanity in that, in terms of convincing yourself. That's part. You have to convince yourself. I think it's like me saying I'm a perfect person. You're not going to be convinced by that. And by the same token, if you try and approach a painting that way as well, even though there's things you can think that's like a mistake or something like that, it's somehow working as a whole. So, and also you can paint yourself out of a painting, or generally I can sit down and look at it. I'm looking at it again. I'm not getting fixated on one part of it. I can look at it as a whole. If I'm getting too fixated on certain elements as well, that's also a sign that it's not quite finished. Sometimes something you really like in it has to come out. But it's a journey. It's a kind of journey. It's about the journey into painting and out of painting as well. That's kind of what I'm looking for, and that's maybe part of my question in painting as well. So that's kind of what keeps the interest going, if you like. So some of these paintings, I could still work on that one at the back there. But it does work. But it works in a different way than some of the other paintings that work.
Is it a different experience now? It's in here than it was in...
It's a much different experience. It's you're putting much more distance between yourself and the painting, and you're giving the painting breathing space that you haven't got in the studio, and you can really see. I can't remember. I think it's Leon Golub. He says he can paint sort of behind himself. He can kind of see behind himself. There's something of that when you're painting in the studio, very close quarters, you kind of have to try and visualise behind yourself, and kind of seeing it like this helps me to see how I've made the right choices, if you like. So that's quite valuable for me, and
Patrick asked how do you know when to stop. Slightly play with that question. How do you know when to start a painting? You mentioned your reading, philosophy, etc., aesthetics. Which is the chicken and which is the egg? Is that the question?
I don't find it difficult. I think it's quite easy to start painting, particularly because I think it doesn't really start until you start putting a few things down. So it's like having a sorry?
Physical action, like the process.
Yeah, because I'm thinking through painting. It's a percept, not concept. If you like, percept is the concept comes out of the process, if you like. And also, I was having a discussion the other day about the difference between graphics and art, and came out the discussion. I can't remember the artist now, but he's quite a well-known artist who said that the difference between graphics and art is art goes from here up to here, graphics goes from here down to here, and I think more of what I do comes from me up to there. So the starting and putting things down, and the idea of a subject coming out of a structure, it's about playing with pictorial ideas and adding it into the work and seeing what, it's like a feedback loop, if you like, as you're working. The work kind of, you have to give yourself the experience. So by starting, you start to give yourself a different experience. So usually I'm working on a few pieces at a time, and then I'm sort of doing small drawings. So there's always something waiting to come. It's more like a tributaries going into sort of main sort of river of focus, if you like, even if that kind of shifts as well. So I don't find it difficult starting work. It is difficult detaching yourself from the work. It's kind of can be a longer process, but there's ways I can tell myself to sort of leave it alone. I've been working bigger size sort of over the last 3 or 4 years, so that's kind of quite a different dynamic to some of the other strands I work. I can just work on a painting for a day and that, move on to the next one. It's kind of becoming much more layered in these larger works, so I don't know if that answers your question.
I think so, yeah. I mean, you used the word traditional at the beginning of the sort of place to begin with. I get a strong sense of the kind of provisionality in your painting. You used a lot about abstract painting at the moment, but the sense of what might not be finished is finished, so that weird contradiction is what is finished.
Yeah, it's proposition. I think propositional was a word. That came from René Magritte's Emperor de la Numiere's Emperor of the Night paintings, and they're propositional because they're quite congruent, and he had quite a close relationship with Foucault as well. So. They informed an earlier body of my work, but there's still something of that in what I'm doing now. There's always the difficulty is waiting to start new works rather than starting new works, I think, or just holding back. But painting, you can just start another one. You can just.
And how are you going to get that back into the studio?
Well, it's quite light. It's just
stairs.
but I had help.
Right on the 4th floor.
Yeah. So I had sort of manoeuvring it round. Just about got it round to by opening the door.
Just do you write about your work a lot?
I kind of have a journal that there's lots of notes and journals that could amount to more. But I guess, I guess I do. I try. I'm a bit worried about becoming an expert in writing about my work, so I like to write in relation to my work, or write. I do kind of a bit of poetry to inform my work. I'm exploring that more actually, especially because I'm teaching as well. But it's kind of like a project that's kind of there, kind of a bit more latent than active. It would be nice to do a show. I have done a few shows at a project space called Grey Area, which you know about, that's had some of my written stuff in it. But I would like to be able to do it more.
Right, any more questions?
I've got a question.
Yes.
So you know how you like playing with colours, a lot of colours obviously, so I'm just wondering if you have to do the same concept, you have to show the same concept, can you do with not with that much of colours, say 2 colours, 3 colours, was it possible?
Yeah, I mean you can. I think this colour of content thing has a different dynamic, but you can sort of make, there's, I guess historically in colour, colour in painting, there's a dominant colour, isn't there? So I'm mindful of that. It's just, and I will. I mean, there's just so much territory to explore really, but simplifying the colours interesting. I guess I spent a lot of time kind of looking at the tonal aspects of colour. So it's kind of quite refreshing to look at colour this way, but things come round full circle in your work.
Do you mix the colour yourself, or do you just get pigments?
I don't. Well, you can mix the colour while you're painting, I tend to like to paint the colour, keep the colour separate and layer it over, so because it can muddy colour. And I also value the idea of letting colour attenuate itself by the way colour influences itself, instead of trying to contrast it by toning colour down, which is a common sort of, well, not common, but you don't I guess you notice that more really, or something that's obvious. For me, there's a lot more to explore just with high key colour and how it can attenuate itself within a given situation, if you like. But that question does interest me as something to explore in my work. But that also it relates to how you handle the paint and all the painting ratios and how the paint's working together.
Because I suppose if, it's really complex, so if you do just sort of 2-3 colours, it can get really muddy, so, and really, like... Yeah, you can start off simple, but in a way I kind of think I do. It becomes interesting when it does become complex or you're not sure what's going on. It's not an indication that something's going wrong, it's an indication that there's something that's working, usually, I find. So, I don't try and control, I set up conditions, but I don't try and control the outcome so much. I like the idea of things that shouldn't go together somehow working together.
Do you have in your mind sort of kind of a story when you start looking at these? And one thing that struck me is the variety of scale of your gesture. It kind of makes your eye sort of move from one place to another. It's not they're never a single composition, are they? They're kind of you can't read them like that because there's so many.
No.
Like the kind of the scale of these figures down here are quite unexpected, given the initial impact of the picture.
Yeah.
Whether you start off with a story in mind and work through it, or whether.
No, there might be some of that in some of the stages, but I like the narratives to be implied, so that when people look at the work, they can make their own connections and meanings. I'll give certain things, but otherwise there'll be a different kind of reading of the work.
Quite interesting. I think this for me really has the feeling of movie still. It's quite, it's kind of. I didn't mention that. I'm interested in kind of the cinematic. I guess that's something to do with the scale of the work as well. So maybe that's kind of what informs the narratives in it. But it's still painting, so.
Just can I just chip in? Are they untitled, these works? Or do you leave them sort of ambiguously untitled, or what do they untitled?
I can't remember. They're kind of. I don't know if I'll do titles well or not, but that one over in the corner is called Prospecting in a Magic Lantern. The magic lanterns are, they're old cinematic devices, isn't it? So they're kind of titles like that, I guess. But most of these I've only just finished as well. Well, I have titled them. But, I don't know if the titles work, and I don't make titles are just a way in. We're not just. There should be some sort of way into the painting or something to elucidate what you're dealing with, and sometimes I think maybe it's better. I'd rather try than kind of leave it untitled, but that opens up other set of problems, etc. So.
Right, shall we leave it there?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Josh.
projects, which is kind of what made me want to do it full time. Before that, I did a 4-year undergraduate course in fine art in Newcastle, and then had a bit of a break and decided that I just really wanted to develop my practice a bit more and get going on an MA, and luckily got a place at Brighton. My whole body of work is, as you can see, it's quite abstract but figurative. It's kind of that idea of abstract marks and auto-suggestion, like what the brain does to kind of put together marks, and it, you automatically see a face or stuff like that. I used to work quite large, quite sort of lap size. A lot of my work used to be quite unstretched, to do with sort of emotion, the environment, stuff like that. But recently I've really honed in my work a bit more, and I feel like they're more intimate that way. And yeah, it's quite an intimate process, especially with sort of really tiny ones like those. Yeah. I use a variety of sort of surfaces, paper, little cotton bits there, and canvas. And this series of works was presented as part of my assessment, which was last week, I think. And yeah, I feel like it's got going, but I feel like I need to kind of develop on what I've done a bit more, and maybe I have had a lot of suggestions from tutors to go a bit bigger. It is quite gestural, quite expressive, and a lot of kind of suggestions have been to go bigger and see what happens with the marks and the scaling up of like the objects and the knives and the brushes that I use. Yeah, I wanted to open it up to questions as well. More of a discussion. It's a new body of work, so I'm not really.
Which artists are you currently looking at?
I like Louise Bourgeois a lot. Frank Outback as well is one of my.
You ever seen Frank Outback?
Yeah, really love his stuff, and Bacon as well. But yeah, a lot of my work is kind of more into kind of the process, but as well as the kind of overall visual. But it's kind of like a meditative thing, and quite an intimate thing to kind of get into. Yeah, I'm quite interested in what the viewer brings to the work in terms of if they kind of get an emotion towards it, or they feel a certain way towards a certain piece. And most of the time I tend not to use titles because it kind of directs the viewer into it. It's kind of gateway into a certain idea of that. I feel like if you've got the ambiguity of not including a title, you can kind of make from it what you want and get from it what you, and bring something to it as well.
Go on, Louise.
How do you work from life, from a person in front of you, or from photographs or no imagery?
Most of the time I use my own face just for like information. I don't want to get kind of likeness or anything. It's more to do with kind of an emotional state and kind of remembering. I suppose in life you go through certain things, and for me art has always been that way of working through things and getting on and getting things down. And so I do start mainly with my own face, and I do a lot of drawings as well, a lot of preliminary works, and then that's where you get the kind of happy accidents, and I'll think, and I'll try and push for more of, I just keep going, and I'm a bit OCD with what I share, and I've got a whole load of pile of stuff that I don't know, I filter through, and I've got loads of stuff that I don't consider good enough, and I used to throw them away, but my colleagues on my course have said, no, keep everything, and so I've been doing that, and it does help, and you can kind of revisit things and think, no, actually, with the distance and the time we've had to not stare at something constantly, you get ideas and think, no, actually that does work, and bring that forward. Sometimes I do use photographs as well. It's almost, I don't know, it seems like, obviously it's me that's the information behind them, and my kind of emotions behind them, but I do think that they stand as almost figures being on earth, like on their own as figures.
What's your selection process then for the ones in the pile and the ones that you exhibit?
Yeah, it's quite strange. I think a lot of my work I do have an issue with knowing when to stop, and that is a major. I tend to create a piece and think, and get so into it, and then I've just stepped back and think, well, that could have stopped a long time ago. And I do document a lot of my work with photographs, and it's a bit heartbreaking when you see kind of the early stages and you think, oh, I should have just stopped there because it's turned into this, and I don't. So it's kind of that kind of self-editing, which can be good and can be a bit of a bad thing as well. On my course, I've just had recent feedback sort of saying that it would be good to see those sort of works that I don't consider worthy enough to show. So I think moving forward, I'll try and be less sort of specific and less kind of OCD, I guess, of what I show and what I don't, and what I put to one side.
Do you work on one piece at a time then?
Sometimes I have several. Like this one, just here. I had quite a few on the go with that one. And it was, kind of like an underpainting with these sort of watered down painting marks there, and then I'll revisit it and go back to it, and again, just kind of picking from the ones that I have had on the go at the same time, which one I feel works best and kind of portrays what it is that I'm suggesting. But this was done at the same time with these three here, just like on the wall. This is acrylic. They look like prints. I'm quite aware that they do look quite like prints. It's oil painting paper with just acrylic and a palette knife. The same over here as well, but it's got kind of underpainting on this one. But I do have several works on the go at once, which I think I like to get things down quite quickly and quite organically, so that does help.
I can see the logic of your tutors, saying try and have a go at it and forget it. The thing the one that I really love is that small one. It's really intense and very delicate, and so this one's quite irritating when people think it's work large for the sake of it. Although I can see why if you're at college you might as well be at college. You don't have to use that time to just take advice.
I think as well, I did have a big piece that I was working on, and I really wasn't happy with it, but there were certain bits of it. I used to work on stretched canvas and have these big kind of scabby, canvas things hanging. And I thought, well, I'll go back to working big and see how that kind of works with this body. And I just lost that sense of intimacy, and that I don't know, it's just something lost really. And there is that thing of going big, but I do feel that, especially with this one, that it would. Like the charm of that is because it's so small, you have to really get close to it to experience it, which is, but I think I might explore going big. But I do find it a lot more kind of a personal thing, which my art is emotionally, wanting to get it down, be that close to it rather than having the distance of making work. But as I said, I did used to work quite big. I was concerned about the environment, and went to uni for 4 years up in Newcastle. Being from London, it was very far away, and I was really homesick, and I just didn't cope very well. So all of my artwork was kind of this longing to want to be back home and picking out bits and bobs that, I don't know, I used to live in a block of flats with these really cool stairs, and I just draw these stairs and get obsessed with wanting to be back home. So my work has always got that kind of emotion behind it. But I felt like on a bigger scale that worked. I couldn't really imagine doing that this size, but for some reason I've gone smaller and smaller as I've gone along since starting the Masters.
Could you go smaller?
Just like if you're going to go bigger, but you could go
That's true, that's actually, that is something.
I'd be interested.
It would be good to see what would happen if I could maintain that. I have got another piece that I'm doing along with. It's again on this cotton, and it's all about that that I guess I stopped there. I thought, ooh, but it would be interesting to see what happened if I went experience, if I could retain the marks and the freeness really that I get with, yeah.
Can I ask, I don't know if you said at the beginning, but so you were doing the stairs, these kind of quite poignant, this imagery. So what took you onto heads?
I think I've always had an interest in kind of the human form and looking at myself in relation to the world around me. And as a child, I was really introvert, really shy, really kind of awkward, and I would just pick up on things that maybe people wouldn't, and I just felt really. So I think with this body of work, it's kind of again going back to that me in relation to the world and my experiences of the world and stuff like that kind of come through, and they are very abstract in nature, but you do get the idea of the head, which would symbolise me in all of the pieces. I don't know whether they're internal, probably are all internal, I guess, portraits of my emotions really. But yeah, it's just kind of developed from looking at the world around me and then kind of bringing that back to me instead of sort of staircases and things that would remind me of things. And it's got a bit more inwards, if that makes any sense.
I like this one. Well, actually, I like them all, but this one really stands out.
Yeah. I think with that one, I had just one ago, I only have more, and I kind of like the sculptural aspect of the application of the paint there, and it's got quite a different mood to these. Yeah, it's got quite a calm, which again would depict my emotions at the time and at the time of creating the work.
So you've just got one of these, or have you got a series? Just the one?
Yeah, I've tried to kind of create more because I would like to have like 3 of them, but because I'm lonely trying to add to this, I can't. It just doesn't work. It's not very organic. So I've just literally got that lonely figure there.
I quite like that on the wall at home.
Steve,
I'm talking to her later. I'll talk to you later.
I think it's interesting. This one's not got a frame. It's not the boundaries, and you go to the edges. Where the others are all quite contained, and they've got the space around and contained. Not just within a frame, but within the mind, and then it's in paper, and it's in the paper, and then but this you've expanded, and it's allowed you to go to the edges.
I think it is interesting to see that I have kind of allowed myself more freedom with this, I think.
Yeah, it really shows. Ian's desperate to ask his question over there.
We have a mutual friend who also draws. He does nothing to promote his work, but he tells me you are an expert in the way that you promote your work.
I'm just obsessed with Instagram. I kind of being quite shy and quite you have that kind of you're behind the phone or if you've got an iPad or something, and I just keep trying to document kind of my journey as an artist, and I feel like that's quite enhancing people that don't practice or they're sort of like a lay person, I would say, to kind of have access into my mind and my world. But I wouldn't say I'm like super great at it, but I do try to build momentum and keep people engaged with my work. But it's mainly Instagram that I use.
I find it very engaging, actually. These might be comments more than questions, but one is that I get a sense that your visual language is operating somewhere between figurative and abstract. It occupies that sort of middle ground, and you can stay there. I mean, you were mentioning earlier about perhaps working too much in an image and you've lost it, and so you can keep a record of earlier stages. It might be that you get to the point where you think I've gone too far, and actually that's the starting point.
Yeah.
I think Picasso said that, so there's probably some truth in that. And I was thinking about like Frank Albach's portrait drawings. Where he erases, he draws with rubber or eraser, as well as drawing with charcoal, and he'll rub into the paper and he'll make a hole in it, and he patches up on the back, or he used to do that anyway. And that might be where you take this work, where you think, great, I've got to the point where I've gone too far. And conversely, that, it's something to work through. And just keep going, even though that would feel really uncomfortable. But you're in a position where you can do that, because on the MA course, experiment and go with it, and just.
I think it is the fear, isn't it? Yeah, being uncomfortable, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I think it is really valuable, take it.
That's a good ingredient, I think, that fear, which is good to
push
keep.
through it, and definitely will consider that.
Yeah, just wanted to say you've got your MA show coming up in September, is it?
It's in the summer.
So have you got any silly question perhaps, but do you know what you're going to be doing? Are you going to be doing more painting, drawing?
I think I'm going to try and push this series of work. I feel like I've not finished it, and I have a lot more to explore. But I think,
Sorry, it's none of my business.
no, it's fine. I haven't really thought that far ahead, but I'm thinking, definitely painting and drawing, but I think seeing that one down the end in relation to these has made me kind of reevaluate my framing of the works actually, but that's something to consider.
Yeah, they're a bit mundane, the frames, aren't they? And I wouldn't really help the work.
And it is a bit of a barrier, isn't it, to viewing the work with the glass and stuff. I think displaying my work, it kind of always takes sort of bugbear, but I think maybe works edging towards the end there, I'd probably show, and I quite like this one here.
So you can see your own reflection when you're looking at his work. So it's interesting that you're looking at a portrait of yourself, but the big reflection of the viewer within in the glass. So that's interesting.
I think that's totally, it does actually.
How do you see framing? Do you see it as mainly as cropping, or do you see the edges of the support as a force to work up against?
I don't know, I kind of, it's a bit tricky to answer. I think before, with a lot of my works in the past, I used to be obsessed with an artist called Leon Gollop who has these really massive linen works. I think he's, I don't know if it was eyelets or something, called him straight down, but I used to work completely unstretched and but through the MA I don't know, we get asked to present our work in an exhibition style a lot of the time, which to me I think, I must get some frames, I must kind of, but I feel like in some of the works it does add to it, and I think these work quite well in, like you said, cropping the image and kind of making you focus on
or maybe the idea of figure ground as well, because the figure ground interest is within the head as a form in those one, where it's all over the picture plane in that one as well, as someone pointed out. But both have a relationship with how it's either cropped or the edges are forced to work against. I just wondered if that was an important question in making the work as opposed to the professional practice aspect.
I think, I do tend to, when I create works, most of what I do tend to draw, I don't know, rectangles and lines around my work to kind of, and I think it stems from maybe I don't know, looking, I've spent a lot of time in the National Portrait Gallery, but staring at traditional, works, and they do sit within the typical frame and the typical kind of, I don't know, but I think, maybe.
Do you mind, would you mind if you kind of changed the scale of the heads against the picture plane format? Is it important to you that it's true to the work that you've seen? Or?
Not really, no. But I do have some of the works, this one here, and that one over there. I do kind of, I imagine them being framed slightly bigger than they are. I like to have space around the work. So ideally that one would kind of sit in the middle of the frame with a lamp, and it hasn't got a lamp. But I do think it is quite boxed in here.
But does that not talk about the intimacy as well?
Yeah, it is.
It'd be nice to see loads of space around this because it's a solitary figure as well. Does that make them less intimate if they're in this big vast space?
That's true. Yeah, I suppose being that size of art, I'm forced to. It is quite domineering, and you're forced to look at it within the